Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down, and working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by A.J. Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke Entz, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both A.J. and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.
All right, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us tonight. Special episode of From the Farm. We've got Ryland here with me so far. Just texting the other guys, hoping they can jump on here pretty quick. Might be a technical difficulty, but we just wanted to host this conversation tonight because we got back from DC. I haven't been there for, Ryland, you're there quite a bit, but I haven't been there for probably 15 years. So
that was your first time in 15 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. It's actually, you might think I've been there a lot. And, you know, some of the activities and the work that I've been doing over the last decade brought some people on our team to DC, but I actually have only been to DC 3 times in my entire life. And once was for the inauguration and the MAHA Ball. And then 2 was for the big announcement around the 7 petrochemical food dyes coming out of the food supply with Marty McCary and Jay Bhattacharya and Bobby Kennedy. Mm-hmm. So I went to be part of that kind of surge of energy, and just also we brought Rick Clark, who's part of this new organization, American Regeneration, because we know that MAHA is powerful, and we want to make sure that regenerative agriculture, ranching, farming is in the conversation, even though Bobby Kennedy is not directly overseeing that sector of the government. So we went then, and then just this past week was my 3rd time since ever.
Okay, dang. Okay, yeah, I thought you were there a lot more than that, but 3 very very pivotal times to be there, so that's awesome. Well, let me just back up real quick while we're waiting for the other guys to jump in, and I want to introduce the audience to you, how I know you, and then I would like you to introduce yourself and fill in whatever I don't. So Ryland is actually somebody that I have looked and followed and looked up to for quite a while. In about early 2020, I started becoming aware of and looking at desertification and regenerative agriculture as a solution to desertification, amongst many other things, right? I'm simplifying a complex ecological discussion, but so I didn't know that it was possible. I thought, I just thought that we were doomed, right? 60 harvests and we're done. And then I came across Alan Savory's TED Talk. And then pretty closely after that, Kiss the Ground was released on Netflix in 2020. So Ryland is the original co-founder of Kiss the Ground nonprofit, which then is the namesake and connections there. And I'll let him explain further of that movement. But Ryland and I share a common connection with a guy named Jeff Wilmore. very important person and man in both of our lives, great mentor. And when I was telling Jeff what I was working on, he asked if I knew who Ryland was and that he was with Kiss the Ground. And I said, no, but I would love an introduction. And so he made the introduction, and then we just connected. So now Ryland and his sister Molly have a ranch in Bandera, Texas, called Sovereignty Ranch. And they're actually one of the producers on from the farm that we're working to serve in that capacity. So for me, my life is so amazing. Like one of my mentors, somebody that really inspired me to get into this and then got me to start selling beef for my cousin's ranch. I mean, how everything went, I could have never, ever seen it go this route, but now that it is, and we get to work together is really special. So before I turn that over to you, I'm going to bring in Dave. He's in the backstage, and then I'll let you pick it up, Ryland. Dave, okay. Good to see you.
How you doing, guys? Great to see you guys.
Yeah, likewise.
Welcome. You working?
Yeah, good, perfect. And let me bring Steve in too. Steve, we can't see you, but if you unmute, we might be able to hear you.
Welcome, Dave.
Whoa, I did it by myself. Golly gee, woo!
Oh,
fantastic. Literally, we're playing potatoes. It even snowed on us today. Oh my gosh.
Wow. You made it though, Steve.
I made it.
The last few days have been a whirlwind for you. We'll dive into that. That's awesome. I'm glad you guys are here.
Okay, we're not going to talk about playing
cornhole with police officers until it was time to go to the airport. Yeah. So real quick, just for everybody listening, this live show, you can interact and comment. If you're on my Instagram, I can see that on the right-hand side. So I'll try to keep an eye on over here. But if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, anywhere, LinkedIn, if you comment, it should come up in my screen. I can bring it on. So if you have questions, comments, you can engage with us here. So anyway, I'm glad everybody made it. I just got finished kind of introducing Ryland and how I'm connected with him. And I just want to give Ryland a chance to introduce himself, and then we'll go around and have you guys do the same.
Beautiful. Well, great to be with you all again. It was great to meet Steve for the first time in DC. You know, I've been following him just in the last couple of weeks online, and loved his presence, personality, vigor, excitement for, what you're up to, and, your vision for 1 million new farms in America. And just, I love it. So great to meet you, Dave. Amazing to be reconnected with you. We've obviously worked together over the years, sat on panels together. We were sharing about that, Marianne Williamson food conference that we were part of maybe 7-8 years back. But so thanks, AJ, for putting this together. Again, AJ said it, Ryland Engelhart. I've been mostly in the good food movement for almost 25 years. My family and myself brought a restaurant chain called Cafe Gratitude and Gracias Madre, starting in 2004, and opened over 20 restaurants over a 20-year run, mostly plant-based whole foods. Got me into organic agriculture. That got me into, actually, my family started farming again, and we realized, wow, to grow these vegan vegetables for our vegan restaurants, the vegetables aren't actually vegan. they need some animals, constituents from some animals to living and dying to actually make those vegetables grow. And that was kind of an ideological kind of bubble pop for us, San Francisco urbanites growing vegan food, thinking we were saving the world with the vegan diet, which, again, it was noble, it was earnest, it was honest. And, we were serving organic food, but we didn't really understand how to grow vegetables. And when we did, we started realizing to make healthy soil, you got to have animals and plants together. And when we separated those animals and plants, we needed to prop up those plants with synthetics. And so to have plants grow naturally, we have to have a natural farming system that has animals and plants. So that was a big kind of mix up in our whole ideological framework. And, that journey took me to discovering more about soil health and regenerative agriculture. And that was a really profound moment in my life, because even though I had been sort of vegan, vegetarian, I think I was telling these guys this over the weekend. I didn't eat my first hamburger until I was 35 years old. And
I was going to ask you to recite that, so I'm glad you brought it up.
And people always ask me, what did you say when you had your first bite? And I basically said, wow, I get why people like those. But anyway, so Cafe Gratitude led me to starting to, understand agriculture at a much more tactical. My family started farming, and we realized we needed animals to make the soil healthy. And that led to really understanding that for health on land, you need both of those. You need both of those species of life to create balance. And so that led to the discovery of soil health, regenerative agriculture, and really the profound opportunity of what is regeneration, and this idea that humans can work with nature to make nature more healthy, more abundant, more resilient, and that we could produce, more food, sequester carbon, infiltrate water, create, nutrient density, and that was a management decision by humans, and that we've been managing in a degenerative way for a long time. But there was a way to manage in a regenerative way, and it could be done, at scale. And, animals were an essential part of that. And so that led me to founding a nonprofit in my garage called Kiss the Ground. And then that led me, at the time I was in Los Angeles, and really the evangelism of that idea was like, how do we have the world wake up to this idea of regenerative agriculture? And so we were in Los Angeles, and we knew that stories are powerful. And so we found some filmmakers, Josh and Rebecca Takal, and we ended up producing a film over 7 years, which came out, and AJ was sharing he saw, and that was kind of part of his awakening. And then there's been a continuum of working with them, and we've produced a second film called Common Ground that just came out on Amazon Prime. And there's a third film coming as well called Groundswell. And then in that whole process over the last couple years, actually I'd gotten to meet Bobby Kennedy probably about 5-6 years ago. This is my son. He's photobombing.
What's up, buddy?
So basically, I'd met him because he was into water, the Water Keepers Alliance, and I was into soil, and someone had introduced us as environmentalists, and we met and connected and stayed in touch. And then, when he started to run for president, he put his first campaign video out. I was just so moved. One, I had personally met him. I had known the character of who he was. And, that led me to be inspired that, wow, if he could lead this country, I really got that his commitment to loving the earth and loving nature and being, a fighter for the little guy and fighting against big chemical companies and transnational corporations. And he had done it. He had succeeded in, fighting Monsanto and cleaning up the Hudson River. And when I saw that possibility of him, being in government, I was really, really excited, and got behind him, and worked in his campaign as part of his finance committee and as a surrogate. And, that led me to be, compelled by the continued momentum that developed from his campaign into the MAHA movement. And, I spent a lot of time sort of working behind the scenes, trying to get his team and his campaign and really connected to the soil health and regenerative agriculture movement. And I, to this day, am still sort of, working in proximity to that movement, him, and really trying to champion and make sure that the regenerative agriculture conversation stays in the MAHA relevance and in the MAHA, commitments, even though it's not directly in his peer or his sort of area of expertise or his lane, under HHS. And so, I've been making some trips to DC to continue to see if we can push this issue, given that we have more coverage for an administration committed to health of the American people, and knowing in my own heart that the health of the American people can't happen until we get the health of our soil. And, you know, our American regeneration, our tagline is a nation that heals its soil, heals itself. And so, yeah, that's what I'm committed to. And that's what that's why I was in DC with you all. I'm grateful to be here, and I'll pass the mic to back to you, AJ, and you can introduce
Awesome.
Steve and Dave.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Thanks, Ryland. And I'll ask, we'll have you share more about American Regeneration in a bit, because I want to hear from each of you guys on the projects you're working on. We just lost Dave right when it was coming up. We're gonna go with Steve. So I ended up in DC because of Steve. Steve was the guest of honor, and he offered. He's like, "Hey, I got a room with 2 beds. There's 3 of us. I don't mind bunking up." And I'm like, "I'm there." That don't bother either of us. We've been on hunting trips, or either.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's a wild game or something else in my case. So we're used to that. But
it's all hunting. It's just different hunting.
Yeah. So I definitely appreciated the invite. I was hesitant at first just because I had just got back from actually Ryland's ranch from Confluence, and got to get our garden ready. So, but I just felt it was important to go, and I'm so grateful I did. So went out there with you, Steve. Man, you crushed it. I tried to download the video to share it on here, but for those that weren't there, I recorded it and shared it on my Instagram page. Steve made some really powerful points for his farm plan. So just real quick, and then I'll hand it over to you, Steve. I connected with Steve just online about a year ago. He and I were talking about a lot of the same things, trying to bring awareness to the farming issue. So we just ended up connecting like we are, you know, a lot of people are doing nowadays. So Dave's back in. He just texted me. So that's how we got connected. We went out to the Modern Homesteading Conference. I spoke out there last year up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Steve's just an hour, little over an hour south. So he's like, "Why don't you come visit since you're out here?" And I couldn't pass that up. Huge fan of the content he created. The message behind the content was really important. So I went down to his ranch. My wife, my 2 kids, 2 of the kids that I had with me, and then one of their friends, and they put us up, and we had a great time on his farm, and he and his wife were wonderful hosts. So we've just become friends. And I, you know, just like Ryland, I learn a lot from Steve. So I've always said my job From the Farm is to go out and try to meet with and shake the hand of the experts. Not my job to be the expert, just to bring them together so that I can, you know, put the right people wherever it needs to be, or meet the right people to help make the connections. Steve's working on some stuff, and we've got other connections that's going to really help propel what he's doing. So anyway, that's how I met Steve. So Steve, why don't you introduce yourself, share with them your background as a farmer, and what you're up to, and why you were in DC.
Yeah, so I'm a 5th generation farmer, and so I wrote a plan. I want to say this because I think this is important. On November the 9th, 2024, you know, Trump got elected, and I've been concerned about agriculture and small farms and food of America for forever, but I've always kind of been in the wilderness, you know. But the creator of the universe woke me up on November the 9th, 2024, and told me to write a farm plan for the entire United States of America. And I had written a plan for the state of Texas in 2014, and the plan got shot down. But it was similar to that. And I kid you not, I got up, I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, for the entire country. Anyway, my business partner, Sheila, oh my gosh, without her, I couldn't do it. So I called her the next morning. I said, "Listen, I need you to type out this farm plan." And so we worked on Zoom, I mean, for like 60 days, every night, 3-4 hours, and we just typed this out. In the meantime, which I do other things. So, but in Instagram, social media, I'd met some other guys that they do food processing. And Ken Skinner is a good friend of mine now. And he said, "Hey man, listen, I'm connected to the guys that can do all the food." And so we wrote the farm plan. So I told Sheila in December that, okay, now I said, let's launch a farm school. And then at that time, there was an email that came out from RFK's group. It looked like he was going to be in HHS, and it said what did it say? It was Team MAHA, I believe is what it was. Team MAHA came out. Does anybody have any plans or anything that could help America? I said, yeah, I'm out here in the wilderness, out here in the middle of nowhere, but I got a plan. And so I sent a message in there, and Leland, who is connected to RFK, messaged me right back, and he said, "Bro, I love what you're saying." He said, "Let's get connected." So anyway, I became part of a little coalition group that started talking to myself, and I started sharing my plan. And then they invited me to DC. My farm plan creates 1 million new 40-acre farms. That's a lot more detailed than that, but it's a war plan, and it takes the military to do this. But new recruitments or people who've been in reserves come out, but it creates 1 million 40-acre farms, because that is what makes America powerful. For every farm you create, it creates 8 other jobs, basically.
Yeah.
And so,
let me just back you up real quick. I think there's some things that will help people understand, like how you got here. So first of all, why was that plan rejected the first time? Because I think that's relevant. Because in your plan, this food, some of this food production is towards a particular need. And that's why it was shot down.
Well, let's back up just a little bit before that. So the reason I can write a farm plan and reason I can talk about small farms
yeah, there you go.
It is because, so my dad was head of the USDA in East Texas as a boy growing up. We had cattle, and my grandfather had big orchards, and we grew a garden. But all the farmers around us milked cows and had row crop farms. Grew a lot of purple hull peas, cream peas, a lot of watermelons, cantaloupes, things like that. So I grew up in this, society where there was just food everywhere. And at that time, 20% of the national defense was food, agriculture. I mean, they counted on that, because if a war broke out, they could feed the nation. And that was the thing. But as I grew older, I watched just farm after farm, cattlemen. So I married my wife. She's fifth generation dairy. Long story short, we raised Holstein heifers, the registered ones and the bulls. And their family got put out of the dairy business. They had 3 dairies. I worked on those. By 94, they were out of business. At that time, I was also building a range pork business where I grazed hogs, and I was the first range hog guy ever heard of in history, actually. And I helped write the rules for organic meats for the state of Texas. And so we got killed in the dairy business. We went in the hog business, and in a few years we were killed in the hog business because of regulations. Everything that I've been through in farming as a small farmer has all because the government made wrong choices, wrong regulations, wrong rules, or pricing, and it kills the farmer.
I think that, sorry to cut you off, Steve, but go ahead. It's an interesting distinction, because I think a lot of people, especially in this current moment, we see what's called like gutting the government, right? There's like all these gutting regulations, taking away regulations, and there's a fear of people like, oh, there's no regulations, there's just going to be a free for all and a destruction of our great society. But what's poignant about what you're saying is oftentimes the regulations destroy good people in farming trying to do the right thing. It makes me think of Joel Salatin and everything I want to do is illegal. It's the fact that we used to live in California and we moved to Texas, and I never thought in my lifetime I'd move to Texas, but ultimately we moved to Texas because of less regulations to do life, and we wanted to do good things with our lives. So anyways, it's an interesting time to be pointing out, because oftentimes people think regulations mean safety for the things we love, and it just seems like that doesn't actually become the reality of what regulations do to people and small businesses and people that are trying to make a good life for themselves.
Yeah.
Regulations in the small agriculture, regulations never saved anyone. All regulations ever did is kill the small farmer. And so, you know, and fast forward, so I was killed in the hog business. So we also grew vegetables, and we had a pick your own blackberry farm. But when fuel went to 478, the pick your own blackberry farm was over. So I was killed in the dairy, killed in the hogs. Then we were killed in the blackberries because fuel went too high. So we went bigger in vegetables. We produced 500,000 pounds of food on 35 acres. We had 10 grocery stores we shipped to in Dallas, Texas. We literally would harvest our crops and could have it on the shelf in 24 hours. And they talk about, look, folks, my children worked in the fields. I don't want toxic stuff in the fields for my children working. I don't believe there's a farmer in the world that farms on small acreage that does anything to his field. He's always got his children in mind. So if you think about that, if I'm thinking about my children, how safe is it for you? Mm-hmm. But what you have to understand is in one night, Obama changed the regulations where I could not ship straight to the grocery store anymore, and it was over. And so, and let me back up. Let me back up 1 year prior. Okay, I remember that the blackberries. We hired 41 people to work for us on 35 acres for 6 months. Okay, so you want to talk about high, you know,
input costs,
but it provided a lot of jobs. My wife had 19 ladies that worked for her, and Hispanic ladies mostly, and we paid them well. And so what we did, we planted 7 acres of cherry tomatoes. What most people don't realize is cherry tomatoes make about 24,000 pounds of cherry tomatoes to the acre. So we were doing about 24,000 pounds of blackberries, and then we were going to roll right into there was a salmonella outbreak, supposedly, which we could go really, really deep into this subject. But the thing about it is the salmonella was they said I could not ship on interstate highways tomatoes. So I plowed my 7 acres of tomatoes in the ground. So I'm just telling y'all, folks, this government, I'm going to say this, it's bullshit. This government doesn't it doesn't care. Okay. It does not care about the small farm. The small farm made America great. It made America healthy. And the thing about it is, in this movement, you know, I didn't know what regenerative was until AJ said something to me. We've been knowing each other about 6 months, and he goes, well, you need to say it's regenerative. I said, well, what's that? Well, he started telling me about regenerative. I said, well, we've been doing that all our lives. Regenerative, I mean, that's just the old ways. That's all that is. That's just a new term for it. I didn't know that's what it was called. We just called it farming. And so, but we've always produced high production. I mean, I'm planting right now. I have an online farm school. You can go to sas-usa.com. You can go to my online farm school. I teach people how to grow high production on small acreage, and that's how you do it. Because we sold 500,000 pounds of food on 35 acres, and you can do it, but there is an order to it, and it's the old ways. It's not chemicals. It's not herbicide. I don't use glyphosate. I don't use herbicide, but you have to do things the way the old timers did them, and our nation operated that way. And so I wrote this plan, and Leland connected me to Dave, actually. So Leland connected me to Dave, and then Dave and I became friends, and we talked online. And then I got invited to DC to speak, and, you know, here we are. Then I met Ryland, and AJ had talked about Ryland, and I don't watch a lot of TV, and he talked about Kiss the Ground and Common Ground. I started watching a few of those, and I just don't do a lot of TV. But the thing about it is we need to save America, and if we don't do this now, I'm afraid, because lab-grown food is coming. AI is coming, and lab-grown food is coming, and that's where we're headed. And there's so much to my farm plan. Number one in my farm plan is to stop stratospheric aerosol injections. So that sounds crazy, doesn't it? I have 26,000 acres here in my backyard, but I can tell you, folks, that they are putting stuff out that is killing my trees and stuff in my orchards. And I'm telling you, and there's thousands and thousands. Since I've been in DC, I have so many messages. I haven't been on Instagram. I haven't posted much because I've been planting, and I get thousands and thousands of messages. My trees look the same way. They're burnt. And so that we have to, because nothing, Ryland, I knew you're a big organic guy, and I love organic stuff. I do sustainable. Like to explain that another time. But if we don't stop this stratosphere aerosol injection, there is nothing organic, nowhere.
Yeah. That's, I've seen some of your videos with the plants burning up with the skill sets you have. There's no reason that's happening. And then there was even people at this conference in DC talking about that in a little more detail too. So we'll come back around. Yeah, go ahead, Ryland.
It's wild that, it feels like just in the last 6 months to a year, that conversation went from, you were definitely a tinfoil hat guy, or if you talked about chemtrails, and now there's like state bills banning chemtrails, and and there's evidence that it's weather modification's been happening since the 40s and 50s, and and there's for-profit companies that are doing it that are being stopped, and there's official press release. Yeah, it's pretty wild that I think that is an issue that will be exposed, and I pray is stopped in this administration, because you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what we're doing on the ground. If the air we're breathing and the sky above us that we're that we look up to is being sprayed, there's not much we can do down here. And so
and let me say this. So I've written this farm plan. We've got the processing side, we have the school side, but there's so many people that are saying we need to do this and do this. I'm working on a plan right now to do an outline, and what it does, it categorizes things. Like, okay, fine, we need to teach elementary kids about where food comes from and how valuable food is, and about farming and things like that. Fine, but that's like 119. Not that it's not valuable. It's just the order it should be in. I'm big on order. When you farm and you work with creation, listen, when you farm, if you're out of order, you get corrected by nature immediately, because nature is unforgiving. And so I'm working on this outline right now to tell, but stratosphere aerosol injection still comes to number one. It does. If you're vegan, if you're a hippie, if you're a redneck, if you're a leftist, it doesn't matter what you are. This is affecting everybody. And for those of you who don't believe it, I'm just saving your ass and you don't even know it.
Thank you. Thank me later.
Yeah. Thank me later.
Amen. That's a perfect point to transition over to Dave. Dave, can you hear us? We can't hear you if you're talking, brother.
Unmute, Dave.
He's unmuted. I don't think his mic's connected.
That's what happens in Colorado, man.
That's awesome. While Dave, you can't hear us either. Oh, he's going to try and get back in again. So while Dave's working on getting back in, we talked about this as being the DC download, because Steve, when you and I got there, we got there Tuesday night.
That's right.
They rolled out the red carpet. The bagpipes showed up, played for us. We were in the most secure hotel in all of DC. It happened to be National Police Week, so perfect timing for us. And we closed out with a bang with those guys. We'll share that in a second. But so we were talking. We both were talking even before going out there. Like, we're gonna go see if there's even any reason to put any hope into what's happening in DC. You and I have both been working on things organically by and for the people. That's why we've been doing it on social media, because we started doing this with the Obama administration, and we certainly knew that was only going to be, the needle was only moving with the people during that time. And we didn't let up after the new election, but we went there just wondering, like, can we even count on anybody in DC? And I know we both have talked after, and the reality is, yeah, we can. But hold on, let me see if we can get Dave real quick. Dave, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, you guys have
Good
cut out.
job, Dave.
I finally made it. The technology here.
Perfect. Before we go into that, what we were just setting up for, let's introduce Dave. I met Dave for the first time out there with Steve. Steve and Dave have been working closely together. So it was me, Dave, and Steve that shared a room together. Let me just share this photo with you guys. I've been holding on to this one. That is Dave's true height. I'm 5'9". Dave's a big man. So he was also not a good guy to be walking around the streets of DC with midnight. So Dave, glad to have you here, brother. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Likewise.
Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you got connected with Steve and like what you've been up to in the world and how you're the guy in DC.
Absolutely. Well, I have worked in DC for on and off for 30 years as a grassroots political activist. I grew up a far-right evangelical Republican. I would just say I became a Democrat on 9/11. I lived in New York City. A friend of mine died in the World Trade Center. And I would just say I looked at Dick Cheney's plan for the Middle East, and I didn't think it was a good idea, so I became a Democrat. I would just, being a Democrat from rural America, a progressive Democrat trying to reform food and ag, has been a pretty lonely endeavor. I would say, I moved back to Iowa in 2006 to fight factory farms. They're going to build a factory farm, hog confinement, next to half a mile from my sister's farm. And she had 4 young children.
Oh, we lost you again.
Oh, now it does look like he's muted.
You're something happened on your computer, Dave, and it went on to mute.
Yeah, so I'll just say I moved back to Iowa in 2006 to fight factory farms. They're going to build a giant factory farm half a mile from my sister's house and her farm. Her 2 youngest boys had severe asthma. So I got involved in a lot of political fights, and I've been engaged in food and agriculture policy since 2006. I've worked with farmers in all 50 states. I helped organize farmers for Obama during the Iowa caucus. He had a very progressive agriculture policy. Several things that he supported was antitrust, anti-monopoly power, and also fair livestock access. I think it's, Steve, unfortunately, one of the things they did in the first 2 years of the Obama administration in 2010, they passed the Food Safety Modernization Act. That is probably what had an impact on the smaller scale farms being able to deliver directly to a grocery store. We were opposed to that, and then we knew it was going to pass, and we worked with NSAC, National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, and we passed 2 amendments. One was a Tester-Hagen amendment, and that amendment was supposed to protect small-scale farmers from exactly the type of problems that you experience. But I'll just say each state probably implemented it a little bit differently. So I'll say I worked closely under the Obama administration with a lot of grassroots activists. During the 2007 Iowa caucus, I had happened to convince Obama's ag team, environmental team, that labeling GMOs was a good idea. It probably wasn't the best idea for them in the long run, because I organized an event, the Food and Family Farm Presidential Summit, and Obama spoke there, but I had convinced his team to label GMOs, and I had a video camera there, and I videotaped Obama promising to label GMOs to 500 commodity corn growers. And they gave him a big round of applause, actually. They may plant those seeds, but they actually believe in the democratic right to know what's in our food. So for me, my battle, I'm not a farmer, but I stand up for farmers, and I try to look after their interests in Washington, D.C. You have to understand there are about 1,000 permanent lobbyists in Washington, D.C. and all 50 states that work for the giant corn and soybean and commodity groups. And they don't have farmers' best interest. It's unfortunate, but they don't have farmers' best interest at heart. A lot of my friends have either sued Monsanto. I was in a lawsuit with Monsanto, Oscada versus Monsanto, to protect organic seed growers. A lot of my friends have been in lawsuits against the National Cattlemen's Association to protect against the anti-monopoly power. We've also had major problems, country of origin labeling. I think
we lost you again. Hit your reset. One more time. No, you're just getting the good stuff.
I know you're just getting deep, bro. Let me finish up for Dave.
Yeah, go for it.
Look, I'm just a redneck. I flunked college, but Dave is the smartest guy, and he really cares about farmers. That's enough said. because the fact of the matter is we need guys like him that understands policy. Okay. Because, you know, I'm going to DC and I talk to these people and I've got a great plan, but you need guys like him that understand policy, that work there, and they honest people, folks. Honest.
Yeah, which here's what when Dave comes back, I want him to finish, but this is what gave me hope coming out of there. It's not the government on the right and it's not the government on the left. It's the people in the MAHA movement. Like I was reflecting on this on my drive home after I landed in Billings, about an hour and 45. I was just reflecting. I'm thinking, you know, the people in that room have the ability to hold two opposing thoughts at the same time. And so that means we can disagree on certain things, but we can work strongly and powerfully together on things that we align on. And we're not going to backstab and nitpick and do all the things that are kind of making things crazy now. It felt like a group of people that really, regardless of who was in office, they were going to come together to make sure they had the pulse on what was happening and use whatever leverage and levers they had to try to help make America healthy. In many aspects, right? That room, the MAHA Institute, was not just farming. Farming was a component of this gathering.
That's right.
And listen to the other people that spoke. They're all, like you said earlier, Steve, what's great is while you have these categories for where things line out, there are people that are specifically focused in these other areas, and that's all they're focused on. So you don't have to do it all. I don't have to do it all. Ryland doesn't have to do it all. We come together. Everybody's tackling each of these issues very powerfully from their own calling, like what's called them into that area. Like Hillary, who's the lunch lady at with her program. Like she's taking it on full force. And Brian, who's taken on the conversation around saturated fat and what he's doing on his ranch, you know. So that's where the hope for me came in, is like, okay, doesn't matter who's sitting in office, because we've seen the ability for the American people to come together and make their voices heard, right? Right now, Republicans are in office and JBS is about to go public in a few days. That is not good for the small American farmer. And it's not a Democrat in office. So it doesn't matter. MAHA comes together and says, okay, where's the truth in the matters, and let's help make sure the American people know so they can make their own informed decision. So anyway, I'll let you go with that, Steve.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, AJ. You and I stood out there. It was late. You know, it's midnight. You know, we're talking about this, and we're like, you know, literally, you know, in one day, I'm fixing to make a decision, and I'm going to start talking to people on Instagram and tell them that I don't know what we're going to do about America. That's kind of what I was planning on doing. Like, how do I tell America that this thing is not going to work? But you and I talked, we said, we're going to go into the meeting. We'll see what happens. And I will tell you, folks, listen, in that room, everybody was on the same page. No matter if they were a scientist, no matter if it was about vaccines, no matter if it was about autism, no matter about what it was, everybody was on the same page. We have a major problem in America, and we need to fix it. Listen, we need to lay certain things aside, and the things we don't agree on, you set them aside, because we got more important things to deal with. And that room was that way. And I'm not kidding you, because if you lose hope, you can lose everything in your life. But if you lose hope, or you lose hope in your nation, that's the worst. Yeah. And I do have hope. I believe that in that room, there was an engine with the MAHA Institute. I believe an engine was created that is very powerful, very strong. And now we need to work on the transmission.
Yep. Yeah. Well said. Well said. Let's let Dave. Dave, we can't hear you, brother. Gosh, dang it. No.
Dave, move to another state, bro.
State, move to a different computer, get on your phone, something.
Ryland, go ahead, brother. Why don't you share your thoughts? I mean, you've been around the MAHA movement in depth much longer than Steve and I have. So,
I'll just piggyback on where Steve was going, you know, on the element of hope. And there's so much noise, there's so much happening. It's, there's so much projection, there's so much framing of this happened on this person's watch and it's the worst thing in the world. If I just operate from my own personal experience, and I see over the last 3 months ways that I personally interacted with this administration, specifically around MAHA, specifically around the emphasis on what can be done around human health in America, and that there is a sincere conviction that can we love our children? Can we love our people? Can we love humanity more than we hate our 20% differences that we have? And so, again, from what was in that room was a big mixer of people that were super, super left to, the Heritage Institute. I remember just that Charles Eisenstein sitting next to that guy from the Heritage Institute, and both of them talking about how this is this big, very powerful realignment, remix of political, ideological views, and that there's this amazing alignment for making America healthy again. And, just again, back to we have a doctor who is the Doctor of America who's been nominated, Casey Means, who is literally the Surgeon General nomination for the United States of America. And she wrote a book called Good Energy. She's a surgeon, and she's all about gardening, worm compost. She's all about metabolic health and human health, and starting with, clean food, clean air, clean water, healthy food coming from healthy farms, local food, just that it's an amazing thing. And then obviously in my whole lifetime, I've never even heard of, or I could never even name a person who was, the HHS director.
Right.
And they were never in the news. Bobby Kennedy and what he's doing is in the news every day doing something. So it's just, there is so much happening. And, the MAHA event, the MAHA Institute, again, just to set the stage, we all showed up to what was sort of this MAHA roundtable event at the Willard Hotel Room. And what exactly it was, we didn't really know, other than it was a convening of some of the, notable and, best and brightest advocates, experts, leaders in different fields of how we're going to make America healthy, and to convene these voices and these people. And, what we discovered upon arriving is that there's a new institute being emerged, and it was a launch event of this event was the MAHA Institute, which is essentially a 501c3 and C4 organization carrying the MAHA brand, and really their purpose to convene, aggregate, sift, and understand, what is happening in America that is a project, an initiative, a plan that is going to make America healthy, and kind of taking, those people in, such as Steve, such as yourself, and listening, understanding, and seeing how those can fit into either public awareness campaigns, such that we can drive the people towards those things, or are they direct things that could, fit into a policy objective, a policy, slot or direction that's sort of on the table and is being looked at through HHS or the MAHA Commission, which, for those that don't know, there's basically, I believe there was an executive order signed by Donald Trump giving Bobby Kennedy a commission of multiple agency heads that are working, cross agencies to, how we are going to make America healthy. And actually, there's another big meeting that's happening next week, which is at the White House, which is basically the reveal and the communication of what is the MAHA report or the MAHA Commission report. And basically, it's the wins, It's what's happened in 100 days, and it's what's being discovered as the next iteration of what needs to happen and what wants to happen. But Dave's back. We want to give Dave some opportunity to complete his sharing of where he's coming from and why he was in DC.
Yeah.
Now, Dave, I already just said you're the smartest guy in DC, and you're honest.
Well,
okay?
that is the stretch,
and that you care about farmers.
And you care about farmers.
He's got a big heart.
I will be the most passionate person that cares about rural America and family farmers in Washington, D.C. or outside of it. I love farmers. I grew up in a small town. I would spend Christmas and Thanksgiving on farmers at their house. I would help their children with chores. I remember one time helping castrate a friend of mine in 6th grade, helping castrate pigs and clean their hog barn. So I'll just say, I grew up in a small town, so I understand the importance of family farmers. I lived through the 1980s farm crisis, and one of the bankers that was shot during the 1980s farm crisis in southern Minnesota, my father knew that banker, but more importantly, he knew the farmer that shot him. So I'll just say these issues are very personal to me. I moved back to fight factory farms, and what I found in Iowa, that is allegedly with the Iowa caucus, you think it's somewhat of a bedrock of democracy, is that the rules had been rigged against farmers. They had been rigged against rural residents. And
we lost you, brother. We lost you. Yeah, jump out and jump back in. We'll let you jump in further.
So let me insert something right here, okay? Because we're talking about DC, and we're talking about what we're doing. We all have, and Ryland, you've been in this game a big time. I've just been farming, so I've been kind of in the middle of nowhere all the time. And, I didn't really plan to be here, but here's what I want to say to the people. Please stop complaining. Stop complaining about things that are wrong. And stop shouting about, I believe that my farm plan is going to get accepted, and I believe that stratospheric aerosol injection. But please stop standing on a street corner and screaming this stuff. Just get involved, get behind the people who can make the movement. And listen, RFK, here's one thing I learned while I was in DC. These people are so busy. Since I've gotten back, I have so many emails and so many phone calls and so many things that I'm planning. Stop complaining and get involved and do something.
And Steve, this is where your farm plan is very much like a nuts and bolts of like real foundational farm needs. And I'll just name them off real quick, but it's like baby food, then food in schools, then hospitals and so forth, and then MREs and things like that. That's from right. The farm is working to connect them directly to consumer and complete that loop on the local level. Those are the things people can do. If it's not from the farm, Google local beef. You're going to find somebody. Go to your local from the farm, a farmer's market. They're out there, but that's what people can do to get involved and use your platform to share the messages out there to try to keep that the pressure where it's needed. The reason the mods were acquitted was because there was enough attention on what they were going through that it got to where it needed to be. Our farmers can use that help from people too.
Well, and Hagerman there in Wyoming, let's face it. She's threw down hard, right?
Yep.
And let me say this too. So Ryland's working on his side. AJ does his side. I'm working on my side, the government, and we're trying to get all of us together. When we all get together and we all work together, we make this work. But let me just say this. If we don't all get together, like for my farm plan, you can't say, okay, yeah, we're going to create 1 million farms. If you don't create the processing side of this, though, you get a new administration in 4 years, they can turn the processing centers and don't allow them to ship or whatever, and it's over. So you do it. My plan is go big or go home. You do it all or you do it nothing. Because the thing about it is, I have been there. I've had 5 different parts of my farm killed over the years. I'm surprised I'm even here even telling you this. I'm still surprised I'm married. I have a beautiful wife.
Amen.
You're a smooth talker, Mr. Jarvis.
Yeah.
Well, I just told my wife, I said, listen, I got to go to do this podcast. Can you plant? She said, you said I wouldn't have to plant. I said, I know. I lied again. So just plant for me for 1 hour on the machine, and my boys are running. So I'm just trying to tell you that all of us have to work together to make this work. Yeah. And we're developing the transmission of this great engine that's cranked up just a few days ago. And this is how you can get on board. Don't complain. And when something doesn't work, it's fine. We'll figure it out. Okay. Today the steering rod broke on the tractor. You know what we did? We baling wired it up. We had a plow break today. You know what we did? We got the welder out and we welded it. Okay. We still planted all day. Things are going to break. Things are not going to work. RFK can't do it all. And I need you not to complain. And I need you to get on board with us. All of us are working on different dimensions. We're all joining together in order to make America healthy again, strong agrarian society again. And that's what you need to do. And you need to follow the people that we are connected to. I mean, there's more of us than just these 4 people.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying that.
Thank God.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work to do in a short period of time.
But we can, us 4 can do a really good job. Just saying.
Yeah. Are you on your phone now, Dave, or?
I'm on a new computer, so I'm just saying, like, I may have to buy a new computer just to be able to talk to you guys.
It's his wife's computer. It's his wife's computer. That's the thing.
I probably should use my wife's computer. It probably has less windows open.
Yeah.
But just to finish real quick. So I moved back to Iowa in 2006. I met Bobby in 2007. He had worked with water keepers for over a decade, helped clean up the Hudson River. And he was a famous environmentalist. He is one of the few people in the Democratic Party that actually spoke out on behalf of America's family farmers. And he had traveled to Iowa previously, I think in 2003 or 4, and talked about factory farms and met with hundreds of Iowa farmers at that time. And so the other thing is, I met him in 2007. I gave him a tour of factory farms and so there was a woman that was going to have, she had factory farms built on 3 sides of her farm. Her neighbor is going to build one on the last side of her farm. So she's going to be surrounded on all 4 sides. Bobby and I showed up at that farm, and literally the neighbor, we went into their farmhouse and talked. Their neighbor, this is mafia-like bullying tactics. Their neighbor parked their truck at the end of the driveway and revved the engine. And we were inside the house. Bobby and I didn't know what was going on, but the family did. And they were scared. I'll just say, then we went outside half an hour later to get a tour. And this neighbor drove his pickup truck across the center of this is a gravel road. I'm from rural America. I've never seen this in my life. Someone directly trying to hit us or intimidate us on a gravel road in a small town in rural Iowa. So I'll just say, this is what industrial agriculture and the factory farm model has brought to rural America. And thank God we have champions like Bobby that have stood up. I worked on these issues for 20 years. And I'll just say, in 2023, I had a chance to join Bobby's campaign. Dennis Kucinich, who I've known, him and his wife since 2010, they asked me to join the campaign. I joined the campaign as his finance director or top fundraiser. It's a very thankless task. I'll just say, you're just shoveling shit one day. I mean, I'm saying I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, 5, go to bed at 11. But I knew it was absolutely critical to make sure Bobby's voice could be heard. A lot of people know him about the vaccine issue and the censorship issue, which I think are very critical issues to answer. Informed consent should be a basic model for democracy, but also human health care. And we do not have that in modern America. And I think for most people, the COVID epidemic woke them up. I'm just saying that woke up a lot of us. I had been awoke previously. So I learned that industrial agriculture had stolen the basic democratic rights of family farmers and people that lived in these small communities. And these small communities exist to support family farmers, basically. That's the reason anyone lives in rural America. That's about the only job you can get is some way related to supporting a farmer. I'll just say, Steve, it's been an honor to meet you. I think you have a really brilliant plan, and we have to execute it. I wrote an article 3 months ago about how I met Bobby, and during this process, I had to analyze how many farmers have been pushed out of business since 1995, which was in a piece of public policy legislation, House File 519. It stripped away local control of county board of supervisors' ability to say no if a factory farm was going to be built in their community, is going to be in a bad location. And so just like they're trying to do with pesticide, and Bayer and the chemical industry is trying to do with pesticide preemption right now, Iowa farmers in rural Iowa went through this in 1995. And since 1995, 83% of the independent family hog farms have gone out of business. And for people that just eat bacon, you need to understand there is a family and there's a man and a woman that own a farm and own farmland. And they wake up every day very early in the morning and they take care of those animals. They care deeply about those animals. They love them. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of false, I hate to say this, Ryland, but there's a lot of false notions about agriculture because of vegans and vegan movies and other efforts. I would say the environmental movement, I think, has been very disingenuous, trying to demonize livestock farmers in America. And where I come from in Iowa, hogs were the basis of how a small beginning farmer could get on the land. If he could get 10 pigs and those pigs could have babies, he could eventually buy a farm in 5 and 10 and 20 years. That dream is erased in Iowa. That dream is erased in North Carolina. So what happened to you in 2010? Like you said, it was a very specific outcome from a public policy that was written allegedly by elected officials with the best interest of farmers in rural America at heart. So the interesting thing is, being on Bobby's campaign, I knew how corrupt the media was. I really did. I've been in politics since I was a kid. I've watched Crossfire. My family, I never grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh, but I know a lot of people that did. And I'll just say, like, the media manipulates our opinions, and it manipulates our opinions about each other. And the last thing I want to say is, it was an honor to be on Bobby's campaign because he stood up under the most pressure that any politician in America has faced, minus Donald Trump. So I'll just say Donald Trump would probably be the one that has faced more corrupt media coverage. I would put Hillary Clinton up there with a lot of bad media coverage. I think she's earned some of it. As a Democrat, I would say I do not like how the Clintons have undermined rural family farmers in rural America. She was on the board of Walmart, and Tyson Meat Company was their biggest political donor. They did a lot of, and there's a reason Hillary Clinton did not win the 2007, 2008 Iowa caucus, and also in 2016. And it boils down to family farm policy and how Walmart has been the Death Star of rural America for the last 30 years. So I will just say, like, I really think it's a great time for us all to come together. We all have unique backgrounds and unique skill sets. And how can we overlap them to make sure this has to be a moment where we can not only just revitalize America's health, but also revitalize family farmers in small town America. Because I think America's democracy is stronger when we have strong small towns and strong family farmers and rural communities.
Yeah, well said. Nations live and die by their strength of their agriculture. There's a question on here, Dave, that I think you're probably best suited to answer. How do we maintain the hopefulness, which I believe is critical, and hold those in office accountable who say the right things but only intend to pacify? So being in DC, how would you reply to that?
Well, I like to say democracy is like a muscle. It only works if you use it. And, for me, I grew up democracy, participatory democracy with a small d. You have to be engaged every day in democracy. I'll just say, if you vote, that is drive-by democracy. You have to be engaged. You have to watch what your elected official does. You have to listen to the committee hearings. You have to follow up on who's donating to them. But more importantly, reach out to these politicians and talk to them. Allegedly, they work for you. Nancy Pelosi says that she works for her constituents in San Francisco. And I think every time you get a chance, if there's a major hot button issue, you will probably get contacted by a grassroots nonprofit. You can get a text, a phone call. Learn to engage with the political community. Show up to any town hearing. I'm just saying that these elected officials, not all of them, but they usually have town hall meetings. Show up to a town hall meeting. Watch the news. Don't just watch, if you're a Democrat, don't just watch Democrat left-leaning media. You have to understand what Republicans and what the conservative side is saying. If you're a conservative, don't just watch Fox News. Tune into CNN, maybe not just to raise your blood pressure, but just to see how people in America think. This is a country. America is the greatest experiment in the history of our planet, in the history of human civilization. Just my ancestors are peasants from Europe. I'll just say that. I'm Irish. The British didn't treat us very well for 1,000 years. In America, we had a chance to stand up for the British. And ironically, the Irish became one of the most powerful political forces. And the Kennedy family rose to prominence in Boston politics because they engaged in the political process. It is a very ugly business, but it is a very important thing to be a part of. And I think it's Plato that said, if you're not involved in politics, you'll be ruled by people that have less morals than you do. So it behooves you to be engaged in this process. And I'll just say, every one of you farmers on here, and if there's farmers listening, you need to know there's millions of Americans that care about where our food comes from. And the Calvary is here for rural America. The Calvary is here for family farmers and our health.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
AJ, let me add something to that. Listen, I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to write a farm plan. I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I didn't have to. I literally sent an email to Team MAHA. Okay. So you talk about engagement and you say, oh, it doesn't matter what I do or it don't matter. I hear this all the time. Oh man, it pisses me off. Oh, I shouldn't say that. But it ticks me off. It doesn't matter. Okay. I literally sent an email 6 months ago or 5 months ago, and I literally spoke in Washington, D.C. So please help me, people. Please stop saying that you can't. You can and we can do this. We can change this. Okay?
Yeah. I'll just say, I reached out to Brooke Rollins, the Secretary of Ag's office, and they said she's not available, but we can put you in touch with this other woman who's a senior advisor. And she went and gave us an hour and 20 minutes of her time. And me and Rick Clark, who's part of American Regeneration, shared about his farm and about his journey and about the conditions for the American farmer and, where there's openings and where there's opportunities. And it was a meaningful conversation. And she gave me her number to follow, her cell phone number to follow up. And I invited her to come to this event on June 13th. And she said she was going to try to make it work. It's a two-edged sword, right? Politics, and Dave said it, it's a dirty, dirty world. And there's so much corruption and so much, and it only works if there's participation. Yeah. And again, there's a beautiful saying that says, you don't get what you expect, you get what you investigate. So our participation is investigating what's going on, and we're putting things on the table. When we investigate and we find out that what's on the table is not stuff we like. So
that's exactly right. And there's a lot of things on the table that we don't like, and it looks like the legs are sawed off the table.
Awesome. Hey, so let's close it out this way. Ryland, we'll go around the room here. Ryland, tell us about American Regeneration and how people can get involved with everything you've got going on with that and the ranch and just whatever you feel compelled to share. And
I'll just say, American Regeneration is an organizational project that got born out of my journey of creating Kiss the Ground, putting a couple films out there, seeing a zeitgeist of understanding and awareness for regenerative agriculture, and then going, okay, there's this awareness for this idea of regenerative agriculture. There's big companies kind of greenwashing the name, and there's, little people doing amazing things, and there's genuine, transformation happening, and there's actually millions of acres that are being touched and being moved in that direction. And it's exciting, but clearly we need, some policy to support, as Steve has articulated so many ways. He's been slashed down by policy. Could and can there be, in this moment of this national mandate of making America healthy, could there be some policy that really drives and supports the small American farmer that's, trying to do things the right way. And it feels like there's an opportunity to do that. And, with the last 10 years of my work of advocacy and education and awareness building for regenerative agriculture, and then my connection with Bobby Kennedy and HHS and kind of getting his people around him excited about regenerative agriculture, I launched American Regeneration to really curate the best expertise in America of different, different cropping systems, different experts that are working at different scales in food production, production ag, grazing, ranching, row cropping, orchards, biologicals, but all these different facets of people that are really leading the charge of regenerative agriculture. And because of my experience over the last 10 years, I've built a lot of trust and credibility and connection to that community, that network. And so American Regeneration is simply an organization where we're building a really powerful group of people that can be the thought leaders and the experts that we can offer and extend and bring to DC, bring to USDA, bring to HHS to deliver policy recommendations, to be thought partners, to be counsel and guides to help this current administration understand what are the opportunities for how we can move agriculture forward. And, I'm really grateful to be, meeting Steve, because I feel like, his piece is not necessarily a piece that we have. So I'm excited to be able to, deeply or start to deeply or more deeply understand, his farm plan. I saw, a deck, which was very awesome and impressive when we were in DC together. But yeah, it's really being a liaison between this MAHA movement and the best and the brightest in the regenerative agriculture space, and facilitating connection, education, learning, and then helping those moments of connection facilitate, what are the next action steps? How can we take that, as Steve said, how can we put that transmission, things into gear? So it's like, okay, inspire, okay, new ideas of how we can do things. And then, what are the next steps to get it in gear? So, and again, I've only been to DC 3 times in the last 3 months since the new administration. But I plan to be doing a lot more trips and bringing, people from DC to farms and ranches across America. I want to make sure that we can get Brooke Rollins to some regenerative farms and have her really understand this. And so, yeah, that's really what we're up to. And then, on our own farm, I'm homesteading and, collaborating with my sister on Sovereignty Ranch, which is a 200-acre regenerative farm and ranch and agro-hospitality event center. We have an on-farm restaurant, and we have a micro dairy, and we have 6 greenhouses, and we're growing a lot of vegetables. And then we have an orchard, and we got young fruit trees, and we got laying hens. We got 250 laying hens. And so we are kind of we're wanting to be a living example of how regenerative agriculture can be happening at a small to medium scale, and be a space that people can come to the farm, experience the taste of the food, get educated, host events, host gatherings. Like you said, AJ, you just came from the Confluence gathering. And so we're actually hosting another event with Will Harris, and a bunch of other MAHA folks called, and AJ is actually coming as well. Maybe be great to get Dave and Steve there as well. But it's called Food is Medicine, and it's a conference in September. It's a weekend gathering, and again, it's about education, awareness, and building community engagement on these issues and these topics. And so that's what we're up to, and grateful to be here. And I know we got to wrap it up, so I'll wrap it up.
That was great. Yeah. Thank you, Ryland. Really appreciate that. Dave, let's go to you, brother. And then I have a question that came in. I'll let Steve wrap up at the end, and he can answer this question. How about United We Eat, and what other projects or interests are you up to that people can help get involved?
I'll just say, Ryland, you were making me hungry when you were talking. If you need help, I'll come and help milk some goats, milk goats if you have any. But I'll just say, United We Eat. We are an independent media and research organization. I previously ran a nonprofit, so I'm doing some independent media now. I believe that broadcasting the good news of what's being done, and then also educating people about the public policy fights that that are at hand and a little bit of the history behind some of them. And, for me, listen, democracy is a participatory sport, and I think we have to be engaged at every level. And one of the things I wanted to say with Steve, what you're doing, people need to understand that they have to buy organic food. They have to buy products with a regenerative label. There's a regenerative organic project label out there. And every time you buy a better part of the better food system and go to a farmer's market, you are helping put money directly into a farmer's pocket. You are helping build a better system. You are saying no to the commodity system that has driven farmers out of business. You are saying no to a commodity system that harms farm workers and puts pesticides on the land without. I'm just saying right now, the pesticide industry is trying to rig our rules and our democracy. So someone that has a cancer patient, if you get cancer as a farmer, and you've used a product, whatever it is, in this case, Roundup and Bayer have been the leading. Bayer's Roundup and the main ingredient glyphosate has been the leading one. Recently, they've been sued by a settlement of 100,000 cancer patients, and Bayer has paid out $12 billion. Right now, they want to rig our democracy, and they've passed bills in North Dakota. And last week, the governor of Georgia just signed a bill. But this battle is moving to Washington, D.C. very quickly. 79 Republicans, I'm not picking on them, but they signed the letter to protect Bayer. They sent that letter directly to Secretary Kennedy, to Secretary Lee Zeldin, who's the head of the EPA, and also Secretary Brooke Rollins, who's the head of the USDA. And they asked them to short circuit our basic democratic rights and give pesticides a pass if they cause cancer. So it's not just Roundup, it's not just Bayer, it's not just glyphosate, it's 16,000 chemicals that will be a blanket protection. This is why in a democracy, you need to be engaged every day. If you can't, find a friend who likes to watch the news and pay attention. But I'll just say, for me, it's about participating in a democracy and participating in our food system and supporting farmers who are trying to make that transition to do the right thing. And there are thousands, tens of thousands of farmers that want to make this transition to a better food production system. Unfortunately, our banking system, the way the commodity system is set up, and subsidy payments, it limits their abilities to move. So if you're engaged in democracy and you're engaged in eating a better food system, those are two votes that you need to cast every day to be engaged.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate that. Okay, Steve, I'll pull this question up here. Let me bring this comment up just real quick, and then we'll go to the question. It's not about reinventing the wheel better. It's about getting America back to the core of the wheel that made it what it was. It's time to put some traction where it belongs. Keep up the great work. Thanks for the comment, Brian. Okay, question for you, Steve. Is there a way to get a young beginning farmers, ranchers get involved in the farm plan to get producing more acreage as the younger generation coming in with these land prices being so high? I'm going to transition this banner at the bottom. This is one way you can get going on that. Steve, go ahead.
So I want to tell you that I have leased a lot of ground in my life, very cheap. And one of the things that I think people are afraid of is, and this is where education comes in. You drive down the highway and you see ground that's all grown up. Find out who owns it. Download OnX Hunt Maps. Can we do a commercial for them? They pay us. OnX Hunt Maps. You can find out who the landowner is. They might lease you that ground. Ground leases right now about $50 an acre. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to leave it there because this can be done. All right. And I have a huge testimony of how I bought my first farm with literally $100 in my bank. We're not going to go there because we don't have time. But I want to say this at the end of this meeting. With what Ryland's doing and what Dave's doing, what I'm trying to do is create a farming system, and I want to try to introduce this word. And I've been trying to introduce this word forever because I believe that what they do, they use the word big ag and they use organic, and there's this war between organic and giant ag. So you rather got poison food or you got food that, just has bird crap on it. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I love you, organic people. But I want to talk about just a sustainable. I was a sustainable farmer because I needed to make a product, and I have to make a product on acreage or I don't make any money. And I want to be organic, but I have to be sustainable. And I'm always building my soil, and I'm always working those things. And I'm always working with my children involved so that my food is, and my children could eat anything out of any field I ever have grown. Have I used some chemicals? Yes, I have. And that's another story. But what I'm saying is commercial fertilizer can build your soil because it can make massive growth, because you need the organic matter to get it to be organic. So I'm going to leave it there. And that's what I'll say, sustainable. I want to get everybody to be organic, but there's a process to get there. And but you have to make product. And I can teach you how to make product. I can teach you how to make high yield on small production, and you work towards that way.
So tell us about SAS. I got it scrolling at the bottom there. Tell us about the SAS school, because that's where the kids can go and others can go to learn.
That's right. So SAS-USA.com, we have an online farm school. It's $2,000. If you listen, get 20 kids in a classroom and get a bunch of parents to put all the money in. It's $100 for lifetime per child. The only thing you have to rebuy at the end of the year is the moon phase. It's going to get weird here. I'm the only farmer in America that writes his own moon phase calendar and uses the 12 signs of the zodiac. But these things make you successful in farming. The moon phases and the zodiac signs, they are your green thumb. And I know I don't do none of that horoscope stuff. The devil robbed all that stuff about in the 60s. And I'm taking that stuff all back and teaching y'all how to use that stuff, because this stuff is set in the heavens. These stars and stuff were set by the Creator, and it's all there for you to use. The problem is everybody's scared of it, and I teach how to do that, and that's the only thing changes in my farm school. Everything stays the same except the moon and the stars, and that calendar changes every year.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you wrapping that up. So, man, I'm just so grateful for the friendships we're developing, for the camaraderie and the ability to work with y'all. Ryland, this is just awesome. I think I heard you say once, you throw a pebble in the pond and then it's the ripple effect. And so, man, I'm just grateful for you gentlemen. Lots of great comments online. We appreciate you guys engaging with us here. I guess to wrap up at From the Farm, our goal is to help make the connection between the producer and the consumer much simpler. That's why we built FromTheFarm.org. We have found ways to be very helpful for the farmer without having to take a penny from them. And we're putting those practices into place right now. So if you visit FromTheFarm.org, you connect with local farmers. We're still building the network out there, but you can join the email list as well and stay caught up with everything that's going on and what these guys are doing. So with that, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you taking some time. Know you're all busy. You guys have a good evening, and thanks for listening, everybody.
God bless.
Have a great night, folks.
Since 2017, 150,000 farms have shut down. Working farmland has been reduced by 21 million acres. The system has been crippling the remaining farmers, forcing some to adopt nefarious farming techniques, like pumping hormones and other performance-enhancing drugs into their cows so they can survive in crammed feedlots. Or the farmers are forced to jump ship and sell to land-hoarding, profit-chasing agricultural oligarchies, who use their billions of dollars to crush the competition and increase your family's dependence on their manufactured food. What could possibly go wrong? The family farm will soon be a thing of the past, unless you do something. You can. That's why there's From the Farm, an industry-disrupting platform that connects consumers directly with local farmers, which means you can buy fresh, non-factory farm food, and you'll know exactly where your food came from and how it was raised. For the first time in nearly 100 years, independent farms will have a way to not only survive, but thrive. From the Farm was founded by A.J. Richards, an active homesteader, and Brooke Entz, a CrossFit Games athlete and an Amazonian warrior in the movies Wonder Woman and Justice League. She clearly has a passion for healthy food and a healthy lifestyle. And since both AJ and Brooke come from generations of ranchers and farmers, they know what they're talking about. We can't do this alone. We need the strength of the American people behind us. Help us build a new food system that combines the wisdom of the past with the technology of the future. Investing in From the Farm isn't just a financial decision. It's an investment into our future, our small family farms, and our food sovereignty. Invest today.